Hey, welcome back to another monthly update where I'm bringing you as much critical information as I can about the market, stats, and things that are going to be important to you as a property owner here along the Grand Strand. So let's jump right into it. And I just want to say again, thank you for allowing me to be your resource here along the Grand Strand. And all the stats and stuff that I share with you are going to be on resale properties straight from the MLS. No data that I'm making up. It's coming straight from the MLS, so you can always rest assured that it's going to be accurate. And then I'll give you a little bit of my interpretation of that, because the more information you've got, the better decisions ultimately that you can make. So we'll jump back into residential sales. Now, these are going to be August statistics, August metrics that we're covering here in the middle month of September. And we look at new listings. We were down again in August for the amount of new listings coming on the market. If you remember, we peaked in the spring, and now we've had 4 months of declining new listings. So when you talk about having increasing inventory, then it gives buyers more choices. And so when we're seeing decreasing inventory on the owner's standpoint, that can be a really good thing. If you're a buyer, you're likely seeing fewer things that are available right now because now we've had that 4 months of declining new listing inventory. You look at pending sales, and we had an uptick in July, a little bit of an uptick in the pendings that kind of been going up and then dropping off, and then the next month they're up a little bit. Again, we did that again in August. So we had a nice little uptick in July, didn't sustain it. We dropped off a little bit in August, but we're basically even with what was 2 months ago in the pending sales in June. So we're kind of rolling, that little roller coaster. And just so you know as well, when you look at the differences, they're small. They're not huge trends, a couple percentage points here and there. So it's just more kind of if somebody looked at it over the course of, if it did that over the course of the year, you'd probably say that new pendings were really flat for the year. But on a monthly basis, you can see that little up and down. Closed sales, closed sales were actually down 2% in July from the previous month and 2% in August, which is interesting that the closed sales were down because usually the pendings that bumped up a little bit in July show up the next month, but they didn't do that this month in the residential sales. So they dropped off a little bit. Closed sales were down about 2% again last month. But they are still up from last year in August. So that's a good thing. We want to see more transactions month over month and year over year, but it's good that we're not dropping below 2024 levels. And then the last metric that I always cover is the months of supply. So we're right now, we dropped a little bit in August. That's 2 months in a row where the month supply has dropped off a little bit. And we're sitting right at about 5 months, which historically is not, that's kind of that middle ground. It's not really a seller's market. It's not really a buyer's market. Different people will have different opinions, but anywhere in that 4 to 6 month is kind of that 4 to 6 months worth of supply is kind of that middle range where it's not super trending towards buyers having the advantage or sellers having the advantage when you get down in the real low month supply. So moving over to condos, new listings for condos. Remember, again, March was the peak for new listings in condos, and they dropped off since March all the way through July. And I went through in last month's video a couple of reasons for that. And one of the things I said to look out for was that seasonal uptick in new listings when you've got so many short-term rentals where the season kind of winds down at the end of the summer. And then we typically will see that increase in new listing inventory as we go into the early fall with owners who say, you know what, I've had it, I'm getting rid of it. Maybe I don't want to carry it through the winter, and they put properties on the market after the season. Well, that happened in the month of August. We actually saw August new listings jump up from July about 12%. Now, they did the same thing last year in 2024. So it's not anything that's that happened in the market. That's a seasonal uptick in the new listings, and it jumped up about 12%. Last year, if I remember from the numbers I was looking at, it was right in there. It was 11 to 12%. So that's pretty normal, expected. We covered it last month in the video. New pendings were down slightly in August. They're kind of running that up 1 month, down the next month, up 1 month, down the next one. So they were down a little bit in August compared to July, but still higher than they were last year. New closings, the uptick that we saw in the new pending sales in July showed up last month in the closings. So you figure that 30 to 45 day gap when something goes under contract before it closes out. Those new pendings that jumped up in July showed up in August, and August closings on condos were actually up 12%, which is a great thing. But just remember, the closings, we look at them from month over month and then year over year. That 12% jump in August was similar to what happened last year in August as well. So we're basically flat to last year in the condo closings. Okay. So there's your statistics. Now, what do we need to be looking for now, or kind of what's the temperature of what's going on in the market? We still have a significant amount of inventory available in the condo market. A lot of that oceanfront, short-term rentals. Residential homes are remaining steady. We're going into the time of the year where it's actually in the third and fourth quarter. Take out some of the holidays because it gets a little busy, but this is where you do see a lot of people that are making moves and relocating from different parts of the country, maybe cooler weather climates. They actually start looking this second half of the year because a lot of people are still buying second homes, or they're trying to find a place that maybe they can winter in. So I expect to see good, steady residential sales. Condos always will, they're saleable every month of the year. We'll be selling these units. But again, you have to really look and say, where do we need to be positioned in the market if I'm thinking about selling a condo, so that we can balance pricing the property correctly with the time on market and the competition, and making sure that you understand what's the target, what's the average days on market for these types of units, and make sure that you're in line, positioning yourself to be able to get offers. The other big topic that, of course, today, as I'm recording this video a little bit earlier, the Fed had their September meeting. No surprise, they dropped the Fed funds rate 25 basis points. There wasn't really any surprise there. I think there was a little speculation that maybe they'd go to 50, but most of the people were saying 25 is going to happen, possibly 50, and they dropped it 25 basis points. Now, don't expect to see any huge movement in the actual mortgage rates immediately, because I believe a lot of that was kind of baked in. There was a lot of anticipation that that's what's going to happen. No real surprises. So a lot of that, any change in the average 30-year fix is probably not going to be related to that 25 basis point drop. Now, one of the things, though, you should keep an eye on is, instead of looking at what the Fed is doing right now, because they made mention, they alluded to, there's a chance there might be up to two more 25 basis point drops in 2025. Again, I don't anticipate that those drops will be the catalyst for the 30 and 15-year mortgage rates dropping. I anticipate we're going to continue to see the drops in the interest rates are more tied to the 10-year yield and what's going on with that. So as we've seen the 10-year yield come down over the last 60, 90 days, then that's having more of an effect on the actual interest rate for mortgages. So kind of keep an eye on that. And then the last thing that I just want to share with you is, I know in any time where you're an absentee owner, or you're not necessarily in the market where your property is, then there's a lot of times there's questions on, well, where do I sit right now? What's my specific property doing? How are things happening in my neighborhood? And I just want to let you know, I do really appreciate when I get feedback on these and people say, you know what, I love this. I'm not doing anything right now, but I love having the information. Just know I do appreciate that. And that's why I do these. You do not have to be in a position where you're thinking of selling to ask a question. That's why I do these, is to get that information out. So if there's something that you need to know beyond just general market stats, feel free, text me, email me back, respond to any of these emails, and just let me know what type of information that you need. There's no, you're not going to be held to anything. I just want to make sure that you get the information that you need. You don't have to be in a position to be like, well, I don't want to bother him, or I don't want to ask a question if I'm not ready to sell. I get calls, questions, emails from people all the time. That's what I see my role is as a professional in the market, is to be a resource for you. So with that, thank you as always for watching, and let me know if there's any additional information for you that I can get for you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe and reach out to me. Send me a quick message on any of the social platforms. Let me know what topics you want to know about along the Grand Strand or other coastal areas of South Carolina real estate markets.